your 360 bird's eye view of this Alex Murdaugh trial so far. Is your side, the state-aheadedness, the defense, your thoughts?
I think it's been a little bit of a struggle for prosecutors, which is tough for me to say because I'm usually on the side of the state. And in this case, I thought the defense won some points yesterday because they got the crime scene investigator to admit that it is reasonable to believe that there could have been two shooters. Wow. I mean, she said, she thought there was one, but she wasn't there. And then the defense lawyer said, well, none of us was there. We're just asking your opinion. And he got her sheepishly to admit that the theory of the defense that there were two shooters is possible. And that defense lawyer is going to make those jurors remember that in his closing arguments. And if the jurors are considering that when they're in the jury room, that could be the reasonable doubt you need for a hung jury or an acquittal altogether.
And they're calling that already the so-called grassy knoll theory a la JFK. We'll get to that in a minute, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask Sara the same question. Now, you come with a defense background, Sara. You are feisty. I've just met you for a few minutes, and I know that you're tough. Is Dave correct? Is the prosecution lagging behind the defense at this point in the trial, in your opinion?
I think it is in every respect. I mean, the idea about the two shooters, possibility, that's doubt, okay? And when you're talking about beyond a reasonable doubt, you're relying on forensics, you're relying on science, which is less possibility and more realistic, more reality. And what happened here also yesterday was that we had a lot of, we could have done it, we should have done it, but we didn't do it. Or we did it and we shouldn't have done it. And that's really bad. And I'm speaking about the processing and the containing of the crime scene. The yellow tape that we see on CSI and everywhere else on these true crime shows, that is a real thing. You're supposed to contain the crime scene. And here the crime scene was the entire Moselle property. They didn't do that. And officers were walking through, and there was an admission on cross-examination that, there was a footprint that belonged to a deputy, and he shouldn't have been walking through the crime scene, but he did. This is really bad. It taints the evidence, and this gives fodder to the defense to argue, look, you can't rely on any of what was collected. And by the way, there was a lot that should have been collected that was not collected, like water mixed with blood that they did not bother to test for blood. And so it really brings me back to what Dave and I think talked about a few days ago on CNN. I still believe the best evidence that the prosecution had, again, forensics, was potential blood spatter on Alex Murdaugh's T-shirt, which they completely destroyed. And there's a Supreme Court line of cases called Trombetta Youngblood that excludes evidence when it's destroyed and the defense is precluded from being able to independently test it. So, I'm really focused on forensics, and it's looking terrible, aside from the two-shooter thing, which obviously it's half the culpability here, right? If it's so crazy that a father would blow up his son's brains, now you're saying, oh, he might have been there, but he might have been one or two. It's even more strange to me.